started investing in my early 20s when I was in the military. My dad introduced me to his financial advisor, Ron, who helped me roll a small 401k into a Roth IRA after I came home from boot camp. I didn't touch it for years after that conversation. Didn't even look at it, didn't think about it, just let it sit. After my first deployment a year and a half later, I finally got curious. What was I actually invested in? How did this work? And if I wanted to put more in, how would I do that on a tight income as a sole provider? That curiosity turned into a decade-long education that went from index funds to stock picking to options trading and eventually back to index funds. Not because I gave up, but because I figured out what actually works over a long stretch, and simplicity won every time, especially if you have a busy life like I do. Over the years, I've met countless people who were eager to make their money grow, but didn't quite understand how to build a structured plan. This led them to make knee-jerk decisions, which is a great way to lose money fast. If you're in sales or self-employed, then you already understand one of the most important investing concepts there is. High activity produces results, but only if the activity is pointed in the right direction. Most sales reps who ask me about investing are pointed in the wrong direction before they even open an account. In this video, I'll break down what index funds are and how they work specifically for someone on commission income, how to think about passive income honestly without the fantasy social media version, and how to start with a variable sales income even if the amount feels too small to matter. Let's get into it. An index fund is simply a collection of investments bundled into one that mirrors an index. Instead of picking one company to invest in, you're buying a small piece of a large group of companies at once. Think of it this way. When you close a deal, you're betting on one homeowner saying yes. When you invest in an index fund such as an S&P 500 fund, you're betting on the top 500 companies that are moving the nation forward over time. Some of those companies' shares cost hundreds of dollars to purchase yourself, while the fund's share price might be a fraction of that price and give you way more exposure to the broad market. Just like when you have a full pipeline of leads, one no from a homeowner doesn't end your month. One company underperforming or failing in an index doesn't end your investment. Some people hold one total market fund as their entire portfolio, and some people prefer bundling a collection together for more exposure to different markets. And yet, despite these options, there are still people willing to shoot from the hip on single stocks they heard about or have a gut feeling. They have a word for that. It's called gambling, not investing. Think about it this way. If the professionals can't consistently beat the index year over year, there's no reason to believe a sales rep closing deals 6 days a week, chasing new prospects, and trying to keep their personal life together is going to do it either. What I learned the slow way is that the more complicated the strategy, the more attention it demands. And attention is the one resource a high-performing sales rep genuinely cannot spare. Index funds don't require your attention on keeping up with the markets. That's the feature, not the limitation. Here's the part that doesn't get explained for sales professionals specifically. The standard investing advice tells you to invest consistently, the same amount every month, regardless of what the market is doing. That advice is built for someone with a predictable paycheck that hits the same day every 2 weeks. You're not that person. Your income comes in chunks. A strong month might produce $18,000. A slow month might produce $4,000. Telling you to invest the same dollar amount every month ignores the reality of how you get paid and sets you up for failure. The fix isn't a different investment strategy. It's a different contribution structure. Instead of committing to a fixed dollar amount per month, commit to a fixed percentage of every commission check. 5% of every check, 10%. Whatever the number is, it moves with your income automatically. A big month funds your account more. A slow month funds it less. The decision is made before the money hits your account, which means you never have to choose between investing and surviving a slow week because the math already accounted for both. This is the same principle I used to pay off my mortgage in 16 months on commission income. I didn't invest that capital during that stretch because I had a specific goal I was pointed at. But the structure was identical, and after the payoff, I applied the same percentage to my future freedom. I decided in advance what percentage of every commission check went where. I kept my lifestyle lean enough that the allocation was sustainable, and I made the decision before the money arrived, so there was nothing to negotiate when it did. The consistency of the behavior is what builds wealth, not the consistency of the dollar amount. Your savings rate, specifically in the first few years of investing, is going to be the main engine that determines your future success. It's kind of like working out. You can't just get fit after months of hard work and stop, or else you'll start to decline and get out of shape. You need to keep the flow of capital going with as few interruptions as possible for as long as possible if you want to see real results. Let's switch gears and talk about passive income honestly, because there's a version of this conversation that's completely disconnected from the reality, and it does more damage to the people who believe it. Financial independence isn't one grandiose destination like most people usually assume. It's a spectrum, and that's what makes it so personal. Maybe it's having 3 months of expenses saved, so a slow sales month doesn't create stress. Maybe it's a full year's worth or several years worth of cash sitting in a high yield savings account because that's what helps you sleep at night. The goal that your money can eventually generate enough income to offset your living expenses is also real, and it's worth building towards, whether that's a traditional retirement timeline or earlier. Either way, there are a ton of milestones up to that point. Let me show you how index funds could fit into the overall picture. My Roth IRA is focused on long-term growth, and I don't have access to those funds for another 20 years. I have several funds ranging from the total stock market as my core holding to blue chip companies, growth-oriented US-based companies, foreign markets, as well as real estate. My income has limited how much I can put into this account over the years, but it's been steadily growing over decades and will be tax-free income to access later in life. My brokerage account is a different strategy. Because I value simplicity, it holds a small mix of 3 index funds, with one of them focusing solely on real estate. The goal of this account is current income and building towards not being fully dependent on my active efforts every month to cover my expenses. But here's what the passive income content on the internet almost never tells you. In order to generate meaningful passive income, you first need a significant amount of capital. And significant capital requires active income directed towards your investments. There's no shortcut between those two things. The passive income comes after the active income does its job. For instance, if your living expenses are $5,000 a month, you need a portfolio large enough that its returns cover $60,000 a year consistently. That means you would need $1.2 million sitting in a fund or collection of funds that are producing at least a 5 to 6% payout. Building that portfolio from scratch on commission income while also paying bills and living your life obviously takes years of deliberate contributions. But let's say, for example, you want to work towards covering a few bills at around $300 a month as your first milestone. In this case, you need $75,000 of capital working for you, paying around 5% to cover that amount. This is a very achievable goal within a short time in sales. Or maybe it's sitting in a bond fund earning 3%, which means you would need about $120,000 invested to cover the same $300 a month. Maybe your investment portfolio is paying you 7% on average, which means you would then need $51,429 of investment capital. By now, you can start to see and understand the relationship between the amount of money accumulated and target payout rate. I'm being intentionally broad on talking about specific funds and focusing more on the cash flow strategy, because the honest truth is that what you invest in matters a lot less than the habit of keeping contributions going during slow months and increasing your savings rate as much as possible in order to build up your capital. Whether that's holding index funds in your 401k, IRA, or taxable brokerage account, the mistake most people make is stopping when income dips and restarting when it picks back up. That on and off cycle is what kills long-term compounding, which is the whole point of the game. The guys who get there aren't the ones who found a better passive income strategy. They're the ones who had a high income skill, used it aggressively, kept their lifestyle from expanding at the same rate as their income, and directed the gap between earning and spending into investments funded consistently over time. Sales is one of the fastest routes to the capital required for real passive income. A skilled sales rep can out-earn most professionals without requiring a college degree. The variable income that makes money management complicated is the same variable income that, with the right structure, can fund an investment account faster than almost any other career path. That upside is only captured if the money is being directed somewhere before it gets absorbed by lifestyle. The most common reason sales reps give for not investing yet is that the amount they can start with feels too small to matter. That reasoning is actually backwards. The amount you start with determines almost nothing about where you end up. The time you've been in the market determines almost everything. A small amount invested consistently over a long stretch outperforms a large amount invested late almost every time. This isn't optimism, it's the math of compounding. And compounding rewards starting, not waiting until you're ready to start. I started with whatever I could spare on a military income as a sole provider. Ron helped me understand that the account being open and funded, even modestly, was the most important step. Everything that came after, the curiosity about what I was invested in, the decision to simplify after years of experimenting, the move towards dividends and long-term growth, all of that built on the foundation of just having started. The question isn't whether you can afford to invest. On a commission income with a high performance year, the capital is almost certainly available if the structure is in place to capture it before lifestyle absorbs it. The question is whether the decision has been made in advance, before the check lands, before the bills are paid, before the month decides for you. Start small and build up, even if it's 1% of your commission check at first. The amount matters less than the habits, especially if you haven't been a saver in the past. A percentage of every check moved the same day it lands into an account that is putting your money to work for you and for as long as possible. That's the whole system at its simplest. You build the habit first and the balance follows. Make the decision now. The market will do what it does. Your job is to be in it consistently, not to time it perfectly. Hey, Root Money Pros, if this broke down something that's been sitting in the back of your head for a while, hit subscribe. I put out videos every week covering commission income management and building real wealth on variable pay. If you want the system that makes consistent investing possible, even on a lumpy commission schedule, grab the free Feast or Famine Survival Guide. It walks you through the income planning foundation so you know exactly how to reach the income you'll need to fund these investments before you try to direct any of it. The link's in the description. Thanks for watching, and in the meantime, keep stacking, keep building, and I'll see you in the next one.